What you see today at the Bolsa Chica wetlands is what is left of an extensive marshland. The fresh water of Freeman Creek met the salt water from the Pacific Ocean, creating an estuary that supported dense vegetation and diverse wildlife. This beautiful estuary was home to ancestors of Native Americans as far back as 9,000 years ago. The main tribes that lived at Bolsa Chica were known as the Tongva and the Akashiman. They lived seasonally on the mesa in round wickiups made from reed and grass. They were hunters and gatherers and subsisted on what could be collected from the land. These unusual cogstones, dating back 6,000 years, have been found on the wetlands. Not much is known about them, but since they show no signs of erosion, they were perhaps used for decoration or ritual purposes. In the early 18th century, when the Spanish began setting up missions, members of the Tongva were renamed Gabrielinos and forced into labor and service at Mission San Gabriel, while the Akashiman were renamed Juaneños and forced into service at Mission San Juan Capistrano. Once Spain colonized California, Spanish officials created vast land grants called Ranchos. One of the largest grants belonged to Manuel Nieto. After Nieto died, his grant was partitioned in 1834 into 5 smaller ranchos, including Rancho Las Bolsas. From that rancho, a smaller one called La Bolsa Chica was partitioned off. La Bolsa Chica means the little pocket and refers to a pocket of land amongst the marsh wetlands. After California became part of the U.S., many of the Nieto heirs gave up their land and it was subsequently purchased by Abel Stearns. In 1895, a small portion of Rancho La Bolsa Chica was sold to a group of Los Angeles businessmen for a duck hunting preserve they called the Bolsa Chica Gun Club. They built a hunting lodge and several smaller buildings on the Bolsa Chica Mesa. Tidal flow made for unfavorable hunting conditions, so they hired contractor Tom Talbert to build a dam across the Freeman Creek Channel. Within a short time, Inner Bolsa Bay had been transformed from a saltwater marsh to freshwater ponds. The dam also caused the ocean inlet to accumulate sand, which soon led the outer Bolsa Bay being blocked from tidal flow. This was devastating to the natural ecology of the area. In 1900, the club hired Talbot again to cut a channel through the mesa between Bolsa Bay and Anaheim Bay. This channel can be seen today flowing under the Warner Avenue Bridge. One of the notable members of the gun club was Henry Huntington. His desire to develop in the area led him in 1904 to bring his Pacific Electric red car line into what was then known as Pacific City. The city incorporated a few years later and is named after him. The popularity of automobiles saw the demise of the red line in the 1950s. Huntington Beach really boomed when oil was discovered in 1920. The Bolsa Chica Gun Club quickly signed an oil and gas lease with Standard Oil Company of California. However, the lowlands were not drilled until 1940 when Signal Oil Company took over the lease. They constructed the network of service roads that can be seen today in much of the southern half of the reserve. In the 1940s, it was feared that Japan would attack California, so the U.S. Army acquired the Bolsa Chica lands and a military reservation was established. The gun club became the barracks, a couple of bunkers were built on the upper mesa, and long-range gun emplacements were constructed on the bluff overlooking outer Bolsa Bay. The remnants of these emplacements can be seen on the northern end of the ecological reserve. In the 1950s, the beach below Bolsa Chica became known as Tin Can Beach. Campers and squatters lived in the area for months at a time in makeshift shacks and shanties constructed of cardboard, tar paper, and scrap lumber. When the state purchased the beach in 1961, it was cleaned of the 300-ton piles of garbage and established the Bolsa Chica State Beach, which is now one of the most popular beach attractions in California. In 1970, Signal Landmark Corporation purchased over 1,700 acres from the gun club and proposed the construction of 5,000 homes and a marina. In 1972, California passed the Coastal Act to protect these at-risk coastal areas. A year later, it was discovered that a viable wetland existed within the Bolsa Chica lands. This led Signal Landmark to sign off approximately 310 acres of land to the state, who then established the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. The Department of Fish and Game worked to restore the reserve and created 2 nesting islands with a walk bridge that crosses Inner Bolsa Bay. The dam that was built by the gun club was replaced with a tide gate, and salt water flowed into the Inner Bolsa Bay once again. Today, the ecological reserve encompasses over 1,400 acres. Phased removal and cleanup of oil extraction facilities has begun. An inlet was constructed, restoring full tidal influence for the first time in over 100 years. Not to mention the creation and enhancement of aquatic habitats and intertidal wetlands, nesting and feeding areas for threatened and endangered species, and the preservation of non-tidal wetlands. This restoration should gradually improve the habitat quality of Bolsa Chica over the next 25 years.